The life of Zola Imani appeared from the outside, like a carefully composed oil painting, elegant, serene, untouched by ordinary struggles. She lived in one of the last remaining private mansions in Kalorama, that hushed, tree-lined enclave of Washington, D.C., where ambassadors, old money families, and the occasional tech billionaire shared fences, but rarely greetings. The house itself was a 3-story Georgian revival built in the 1920s by Zola's grandfather, later expanded and modernized by her father. White columns, black shutters, ivy climbing the brick in disciplined patterns. Inside, every room carried the scent of polished walnut, fresh lilies, and the faint memory of her father's pipe tobacco, even though he had been gone for 8 years. Zola had inherited everything at 29. The house, the investment portfolios, the blind trusts, the minority stakes in 3 private equity funds, the art collection her father had quietly assembled over 4 decades. She never spoke the total figure aloud, not even to her mother, but the number that appeared on the quarterly statements. From Attorney Thud's office began with a 2 and contained 8 zeros. After the decimal point, she did not flaunt it. She wore quiet designer pieces that looked expensive only to people who understood cut and fabric. She drove a 5-year-old Mercedes S-Class because it was comfortable and familiar. She gave generously but anonymously to scholarships, women's shelters, and a small music academy in Anacostia that her father had quietly supported until his death. People who met her described her the same way, poised, soft-spoken, kind to the point of vulnerability. She smiled easily and listened intently. She truly believed, that most people were good at their core, and that cruelty was usually born from pain rather than pure malice. That belief had protected her heart for most of her life, until it didn't. Kaylin Hayes entered her world like a warm spring wind after a long winter. They met at a fundraiser for the National Museum of African American History and Culture. He was 34, tall, smooth-skinned, impeccably dressed in a charcoal Tom Ford suit that fit like it had been sewn onto him. He worked in strategic consulting, a phrase vague, enough to sound important without inviting too many follow-up questions. He spoke with calm confidence, laughed at the right moments, remembered names, and most dangerously, remembered small details about people he had only met once. When he asked Zola about the Basquiat piece hanging in her father's former study, a detail she had mentioned, only in passing to a mutual acquaintance, she felt seen in a way that made her chest tighten pleasantly. By their 3rd date, he had already met her mother. By the 6th month, they were engaged. The wedding was small, elegant, held in the garden, behind the Kalorama house under a tent of white roses and fairy lights. Everyone said they were perfect together. Zola believed it with her whole heart. Marriage to Kaylin felt like slipping into warm water. He woke before her every morning and brought her chamomile tea with a perfect swirl of honey. He listened when she talked about her father's bold letters or her anxiety about the foundation board meetings she had recently joined. He kissed her forehead when she came home tired. He called her my queen in private and darling in public. When she asked if he wanted a prenup, he laughed gently and said, "I didn't marry you for your money, Zola. I married you because you're the only person I've ever met who makes silence feel like home." She gave him access to almost everything. Not because he demanded it, because she offered. The black card with no visible limit, administrator rights on several accounts. His name added to the house deed as joint tenant with right of survivorship, just in case something happens to me. She told Attorney Thud she trusted her husband completely. Thud, a silver-haired man who had handled her father's estate since Zola was in high school, raised one eyebrow but said only, "Trust is earned daily, Miss Zola. Never stop watching the deposits." She didn't watch closely enough. One humid Thursday in late spring, Kaylin came home earlier than usual. Zola had just finished a guided meditation in the library, floor to ceiling. Bookshelves, velvet armchair, sunlight falling through leaded windows and golden bars. She heard his footsteps on the parquet before she saw him. He wrapped his arms around her from behind and pressed his lips to the side of her neck. "Baby," he murmured, "I have the biggest surprise of your life." She turned in his arms. He was holding a cream envelope embossed with gold foil. Inside were 2 first-class tickets to Naples, hotel confirmations for a 5-star property overlooking the Amalfi Coast, private car transfers, yacht reservations, A Michelin-star dinner booking. Everything she had daydreamed about since she was 12 years old and first saw. Photographs of Positanos, pastel houses tumbling into the sea. The Amalfi Coast? Her voice cracked. Seriously, my love? Of course. I've arranged everything, visas, insurance, excursions. You deserve this. You've given me the most peaceful years of my life. Let me give you paradise. Tears came instantly. She hugged him so tightly she felt his heartbeat against her cheek. She never asked how he had paid for it. She didn't need to. The black card lived in his wallet now. The days before departure passed in a happy blur. Zola packed slowly, lovingly. Silk caftans, linen dresses, strappy sandals, the emerald drop earrings her father had given her for her 21st birthday. Kaylin handled the paperwork, travel insurance, health declarations, luggage tags. 3 days before the flight, he brought a thick stack of documents into the bedroom while she was folding scarves. Honey, just a few final things to sign before we go. She glanced up. What are they? Standard stuff. Travel insurance forms, the health questionnaire for Italian entry. And this, he tapped one page, a temporary power of attorney. Nothing dramatic. Zola paused, a cashmere shawl in her hands. Power of attorney? Kaylin's smile was soft. Reassuring, the same smile that had melted her reservations 1,000 times. It's just so I can handle bills or bank flags while we're gone. You know how banks get when both account holders are overseas. They freeze things for security. This is only valid during the trip. Attorney Thud's office said it's routine for long international travel. She thought of Thud's voice, always calm and cautionary. Never sign anything you haven't read. Child, but this was Kaylin, her husband, the man who kissed her knuckles when she was anxious. Doubting him felt like betraying the best part of herself. She took the pen. He flipped each page quickly and pointed to the signature lines. She signed where he indicated 5 signatures in total, without reading past the headings. Kaylin kissed her temple. That's my girl. Now we're really ready. Departure day arrived in a wash of champagne and anticipation. Business class felt like a private living room. Kaylin held her hand during takeoff. Zola rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "This is already perfect." "Thank you." He squeezed her fingers. "This is going to be the best trip of our lives, honey. I promise." She believed him. They landed at Washington, Dulles International Airport, just after 3 p.m. local time. The first leg of the journey, Dulles to Naples, via Paris, was scheduled to depart in 4 hours. Zola felt electric with excitement. The terminal smelled of coffee, perfume, and jet fuel. Voices in a dozen languages bounced off the high ceilings. She clung lightly to Kaylin's arm as they moved through the crowds. Immigration was smooth. Kaylin handed both passports to the officer, answered the questions, smiled. Zola stood beside him and offered a polite nod. Baggage claim delivered their 3 large suitcases and her personal duffel. Kaylin loaded everything onto a cart with practiced efficiency. "Okay, that's everything," he said. "Let's find a SIM card shop and then a quiet spot to wait for the next flight." Zola nodded, eyes bright, taking in the bustle around her. They pushed the cart toward the center of the arrivals hall. Just before the automatic exit doors, Kaylin stopped abruptly. "Honey, I forgot. We need local SIMs for Italy. And I've needed the restroom since we touched down." Zola smiled. "I'll come with you." "No, stay with the bags. You know how airports are. People grab anything unattended. I'll be quick. The shop and restrooms are just over there." He pointed across the wide hall, toward a cluster of kiosks and signage. Zola glanced at the 3 large suitcases. She felt a flicker of unease at being left alone with them in the crowd. But Kaylin's reasoning made sense. "Okay, my love." "Hurry back." He leaned in, kissed her forehead, then paused. "One more thing. Pickpockets love busy lobbies like this. Your crossbody has your passport, wallet, phone, everything. Give it to me. I'll put it inside my backpack. Safer that way?" It sounded logical, protective, loving. Zola unhooked the slim leather bag from her shoulder and handed it over. Kaylin zipped it inside his large backpack, gave her another quick kiss, and walked away. His stride was brisk but unhurried. He blended into the river of passengers and disappeared around a corner. Zola stood beside the luggage cart, hands folded, watching faces pass. 5 minutes, 10, 15, the excitement in her chest slowly curdled into restlessness. 20 minutes. She shifted her weight. Her calves began to ache in her low heels. 30 minutes. Anxiety bloomed like cold water in her stomach. A restroom and SIM card couldn't take this long. 45 minutes. Her mouth went dry. She looked toward the direction he had pointed. No sign of him. 1 hour. The truth arrived quietly at first, then crashed over her like a wave. She had no phone, no passport, no credit cards, no cash, no hotel name, no ticket confirmation, no Italian, no one to call. She was alone in an international airport on another continent, dressed in an elegant cream linen dress and heels, standing next to 3 suitcases that suddenly felt like anchors. People streamed past her, families laughing, business travelers talking on phones, tourists consulting maps. No one noticed the elegantly dressed black woman who had stopped moving, whose eyes had begun to shine with unshed tears. 2 airport security officers had been watching her from 30 meters away for the last 20 minutes. A woman standing motionless beside luggage for that long was unusual. They approached slowly. "Ma'am, do you need assistance?" Zola startled. Her voice came out small. "My husband. He went to the restroom and to buy a SIM card. He hasn't come back. It's been over an hour." The officers exchanged glances. "May we see your passport and boarding pass, please?" Zola's lips trembled. I don't have them. My husband has my passport. And my phone, everything." The atmosphere changed instantly. One officer spoke into his radio in rapid Italian. The other placed a gentle but firm hand on her elbow. "You need to come with us to the security office, Signora. We will sort this out." Zola felt the floor tilt. Tears spilled over. "Please, he has my documents." He said he'd be right back. The officers guided her away from the luggage cart. Another security agent arrived to watch the bags. Zola kept looking over her shoulder, hoping, praying to see Callan jogging toward her with an apology and a story about long lines. Instead, as they passed through a set of glass doors into a quieter corridor, she caught a final glimpse across the vast arrivals hall. Near the domestic departures escalators stood Callan. He was not alone. A beautiful woman, tall, light-skinned, hair swept into a sleek bun, was wrapped in his arms. Serafina Jones, the same Serafina he had introduced months ago as a colleague from the Chicago office at a charity dinner. They were smiling, laughing softly, each pulling a small carry-on. They looked like lovers beginning a long-awaited holiday. Callan never glanced back toward the spot where he had left his wife. He didn't need to. He already knew she would still be standing there, waiting, trusting, helpless, exactly as he had planned. Zola's knees buckled. The officers caught her before she fell, and in that moment, the dream she had carried across an ocean shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The security office at Washington Dulles International Airport was small, harshly lit, and smelled faintly of burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. A metal table bolted to the floor, 2 gray chairs, a one-way mirror that reflected Zola's own stunned face back at her. She sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap, the cream linen dress now creased and slightly damp from nervous sweat. Her elegant updo had begun to loosen. A few strands clung to her damp cheeks. The senior officer, badge reading Capitano Rossi, sat across from her, speaking careful accented English. His colleague, a younger woman, stood by the door taking notes. "Signora Imani Hayes," he began, pronouncing her married name with difficulty. "You say your husband took your passport, your telephone, your money, and left you in the arrivals hall. You saw him later with another woman walking toward departures. Is this correct?" Zola nodded. Her throat felt lined with sandpaper. "Yes. His name is Callan Hayes. We were supposed to fly to Naples together. He said he was going to buy SIM cards and use the restroom. He never came back." Rossi exchanged a glance with his colleague. "We have your suitcases secured, but without documents, without any proof of identity or legal status. This is complicated. You are on American soil now, but you arrived from an international flight. Without a passport, we cannot simply release you into the country." "I'm an American citizen," Zola whispered. "Born in Washington, D.C. My passport is blue. It has my photo. My maiden name is Imani." Rossi sighed. He had heard variations of this story before. Domestic disputes, jealous partners hiding documents, lovers fleeing mid-vacation. But something in Zola's eyes, wide, dry now, almost glassy, made him pause. This was not a shouting match or a lover's quarrel. This was something colder. "We will try to contact your husband," he said. You said he was going to the Amalfi Coast? Zola shook her head slowly. He won't answer. He planned this. The words tasted like ash. Saying them aloud made the betrayal real in a way seeing him with Serafina had not. Hours passed. Or perhaps only minutes. Time had lost shape. Zola was offered water in a paper cup. She held it but did not drink. Her mind kept replaying the final image. Kaylin's arm around Serafina's waist. The easy way they laughed. The matching carry-ons rolling behind them like obedient pets. Every time the memory looped, a new shard of pain lodged deeper. She tried to remember phone numbers. Her mother's, her best friend Aisha's, even Attorney Thud's personal mobile. Nothing came. All those numbers lived in the cloud. Protected by her phone, now in Kaylin's backpack. Somewhere over the Atlantic or already on Italian soil. Then, like a lifeboat appearing in fog, one number surfaced. It was the main line of Thud and Associates. The same number her father had dialed every December to wish the old lawyer happy holidays. The same number. Zola had called at 16 to ask if she could intern during summer break. It had not changed in 25 years. "Please," she said suddenly, voice hoarse. "I need to make one call. To my attorney in Washington, D.C., I remember the number. It's the only one I know by heart." Rossi studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "One call. To the American Embassy in Rome, if necessary. They can connect internationally." They moved her to a small desk with an old landline. Zola's fingers shook as she dialed. The international tone sounded alien. Then ringing. Thud and Associates. A familiar baritone answered on the third ring. Even though it was past midnight in D.C., Thud and Associates. Alistair Thud speaking. "Attorney Thud." Zola's voice cracked wide open. "It's Zola, please help me." The line went perfectly still for 2 heartbeats. "Miss Zola?" Thud's tone shifted from professional to urgent grandfatherly in an instant. "Where are you? What's happened?" Between choking sobs, she told him everything. The surprise trip. The documents she signed without reading. The airport. Kaylin walking away with Serafina. The empty crossbody bag. The security office. Thud listened without interrupting. When she finished, silence again. Then, "Listen to me very carefully, Zola. You are not alone anymore. You contacted the right person. First priority, your safety. You are already in airport security. That's good. Do not leave that building until someone I send collects you. I am going to call a colleague in Rome immediately, Attorney Lorenzo Basile. He owes me several favors. He will come to Dulles with embassy staff and help you obtain an emergency travel document. It may take 36 hours, perhaps less. Until then, stay put." He paused. "One question, child. Before you left D.C., did you sign any documents Kaylin asked you to sign?" Zola closed her eyes. "Yes, he said it was travel insurance. And a temporary power of attorney, just for while we were away, so he could handle bank matters if anything came up." Thud exhaled sharply, almost a hiss. "I see." He did not say, "I told you so." He didn't need to. "Miss Zola, do exactly as the security officers and embassy personnel instruct. Eat if they offer food, rest if they offer a chair. I will call you back within the hour. You are going to be all right. Your father would expect nothing less from you." The line clicked. Zola sat motionless, staring at the receiver. Across the ocean, in a dimly lit office on Connecticut Avenue, Alistair Thud was already moving. He woke his assistant Kai with a 1:17 a.m. call. "Kai, office, now. Bring the master key to my safe." Then he dialed Rome. "Lorenzo, Alistair, emergency. My most important client's daughter is stranded at Dulles, no passport, no funds, abandoned by her husband who is attempting to liquidate her estate. I need you at the airport by morning your time. Cost is irrelevant. Get her an emergency passport, replacement, and bring her to a secure location until she can fly home." Lorenzo Basile, a lean, silver-haired Neapolitan who had once clerked for Thud in the 1990s, answered without hesitation. "Understood. I'll handle it personally." Thud's next call was to a contact at the Federal Reserve, Bank of New York's Financial Crimes Liaison Desk. Freeze everything in the name of Zola Imani Hayes, and any joint accounts with Colleen. Hayes, suspected fraud via power of attorney, obtained under false pretenses. I'll send the emergency declaration within the hour. By 3 a.m. D.C. time, the first dominoes had fallen. Back at Dulles, Zola was moved to a small, embassy-affiliated waiting room inside the international terminal. A soft couch, a television muted on CNN, a vending machine that dispensed weak tea. Attorney Basile arrived just after dawn Italian time, tall, immaculately dressed, carrying a leather portfolio and an air of calm competence. "Signora Imani," he said gently, bowing slightly, "I am Lorenzo Basile. Your attorney Thud sent me. We are going to get you home." He sat beside her and explained the process. Emergency travel document application, passport photo, taken with a portable camera he carried, embassy interview, coordination with Italian Foreign Ministry. It would take 36 hours at best. Zola listened, numb. Basil studied her quietly. "You are in shock," he said. "That is normal. But you are safe now. And you are not the first woman to be betrayed this way. You will not be the last. But you will survive this." For the next day and a half, Zola existed in a strange suspension. Basil arranged a room in a discreet, embassy-affiliated guest house near Termini Station. Plain walls, clean sheets, a small balcony overlooking a courtyard. No luxury, no memories of Kaylin. She showered for the first time in 2 days, letting hot water scald her skin until it hurt. She wore the same linen, dress, now wrinkled beyond saving, because she had nothing else. She did not cry again after that first call to Thud. Instead, something colder settled inside her chest. Not hatred, not yet. Calculation, memory after memory of Kaylin's smiles, his tender gestures, his whispered promises. Each one reframed itself in the harsh light of truth. Every "my queen," every forehead kiss, every "I married you for you." Not your money, all choreography, all rehearsal for this exact moment. She remembered the way he had looked at her on the plane, squeezing her hand, promising the best trip of our lives. She remembered signing the power of attorney, trusting the man who had already planned to use it like a blade. And she remembered Serafina's laugh echoing across the arrivals hall. On the second evening, Thud called again through Basile's secure line. "Miss Zola," he said, voice steady but tight with controlled fury. We stopped him. "Not everything, but most of it. Using the power of attorney you signed. Kaylin initiated transfer of nearly $1 million to offshore accounts and began the process of selling your home to a shell company tied to Serafina. Jones, we filed emergency motions. The banks froze everything the moment we presented evidence of fraud. The house is safe. Your principal assets are safe. He cannot touch another cent." Zola exhaled slowly. "And him?" "He and Serafina are still in Italy. Naples, most likely. They've been living lavishly on your black card, hotels, restaurant, designer boutique. But the card will decline any moment now. When it does, they will panic. They will try to return quickly. We have tracked their flight bookings. They are scheduled to fly back to DC in 48 hours with a layover in Dubai. You will arrive first." Zola's fingers tightened around the phone. "How much head start do I have?" "Almost 18 hours. Enough time to prepare." A long silence. "Prepare what, attorney?" Thud's voice softened, but only slightly. "A welcome home he will never forget." Zola looked out at the Roman rooftops glowing under street lights. Somewhere in the distance, church bells tolled midnight. When she spoke again, her voice was different. No tremor, no tears, just quiet steel. "Get me home. Attorney Thud, I want to be sitting in my living room when he walks through the door." The black sedan glided through the gates of Kalorama just after 11 p.m. Washington time. Streetlights cast long, quiet shadows across the manicured lawns. Zola sat in the back seat, hands resting lightly in her lap, staring at the familiar houses sliding past like ghosts of her former life. The emergency travel document, pale green, slightly stiff, rested inside the slim folder. Attorney Basile had given her at Fiumicino Airport. It felt heavier than a passport should. The driver, one of Thud's discreet assistants, spoke only once. "Attorney Thud is waiting inside, ma'am." Zola nodded. "No, thank you. No small talk." Words felt unnecessary now. The front door opened before she reached it. Alistair Thud stood framed in the doorway, tall, silver-haired, suit still impeccable despite the late hour. His eyes, usually calm and measured, carried something fiercer tonight, pride laced with sorrow. "Welcome home, Miss Zola," he said quietly. She stepped across the threshold. The scent of lilies hit her. First, same arrangement she had left on the hall table before departure. The marble floor gleamed under low lighting. Everything was exactly as she had left it, and yet nothing felt the same. Thud led her directly to the home office her father had once used for late-night strategy sessions. Tonight the room had been transformed. 3 extra laptops glowed on the long oak table. Cables snaked across the carpet. A bank of small monitors displayed live feeds from discrete cameras, hidden in the living room chandelier, hallway sconces, and the main entrance frame. 2 men in plain clothes, FBI badges clipped to their belts, nodded respectfully as she entered. A third man, bespectacled and academic-looking, stood beside a whiteboard covered in timelines and account numbers. "Miss Zola," Thud began, "allow me to introduce the team. Agent Rafael Delgado, FBI Financial Crimes Unit, Mr. Javier Torres, Forensic Auditor, and Agent Morales, Digital Forensics." Delgado stepped forward first. Broad shoulders, calm voice, eyes that missed nothing. "Ma'am, I've read the full brief from Attorney Thud. What happened to you was not just betrayal, it was a calculated criminal enterprise. We're here to make sure it ends tonight." Torres adjusted his glasses and pointed to one of the screens. "We moved fast. The moment the accounts were flagged, we traced every transaction. Colin managed to move just under 1.2 million before the freezes took effect, mostly luxury spending in Italy and initial down payments on offshore shells. But the house sale never closed. The power of attorney has been formally contested and suspended, pending fraud investigation. Your title remains intact." Zola listened without expression. "And when he arrives?" Delgado met her gaze directly. "We want him to incriminate himself on record. Hidden audio and video are already active. You sit in the living room, visible, calm. Let him enter. Let him speak. The more he says in anger or panic, the stronger our case. When he crosses into threat, admission, or physical aggression, we move in. You won't be alone for a second." Zola looked at the largest monitor, a wide-angle view of her own living room. Empty, softly lit by a single floor lamp. The individual sofa, the one upholstered in dove gray, velvet, faced the entrance like a throne. "I'll do it," she said. That night she did not sleep in the master suite. The thought of lying in the bed she had shared with Kaylin made her stomach turn. She chose the downstairs guest room, simple linens, no memories. She lay awake, eyes open in the dark, replaying every lie he had ever told her until they hardened into armor. The next day passed in hushed preparation. Technicians tested angles and sound levels. Thud reviewed legal filings one final time. Zola showered, dressed with deliberate care. A deep navy silk sheath dress that skimmed her. Body like liquid midnight. Simple diamond studs. Hair swept into a low chignon. No armor of jewelry or heavy makeup, just quiet, unassailable elegance. She wanted him to see what he had tried to destroy and failed. At 4:00 p.m., the house fell silent. Everyone but Zola retreated to the office. Doors closed. Breathing held. She prepared a single cup of chamomile tea, carried it to the living room, and sat on the velvet sofa facing the front door. The steam rose in delicate spirals. She lifted the cup to her lips and waited. At 4:37 p.m., she heard the cab pull up outside the gate. Footsteps, quick, angry, on the stone path. The key scraped in the lock. The door opened. Kaylin stepped inside, carry-on bag dragging behind him. His face was gaunt, eyes bloodshot from travel and rage. He looked around the dim foyer. "Zola?" His voice cracked with disbelief and fury. "Why the hell is it so dark in here?" He reached for the light switch. The chandelier blazed to life. There she sat, perfectly composed, teacup in hand, looking directly at him. The carry-on slipped from his fingers and crashed to the marble. "No." The word escaped like air from a punctured tire. Zola took a slow sip of tea. "You're supposed to be in Italy," he whispered. "You're supposed to be gone." "I'm home, Kaylin." Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "Welcome back." He staggered one step backward. "This isn't real. You can't be here." She set the cup down with a faint clink. "I'm very real, and so is the warrant being prepared for your arrest." His face twisted, fear giving way to fury. "You froze everything? You and that meddling old lawyer? You think you can just—" "I didn't think anything," Zola interrupted calmly. "I acted. The same way you acted when you left me, standing beside 3 suitcases, with nothing but the clothes on my back." He took a step forward, fists clenched. "You were supposed to disappear. You were supposed to be nothing. I planned every detail." The confession poured out, months of preparation, the forged documents, the offshore shells, Serafina's eager participation, the laughter they shared imagining Zola destitute and detained. Every word was captured, in high fidelity by the microphones, hidden in the crown molding. Zola listened without flinching. When he finally paused for breath, she tilted her head slightly. "Thank you, Kaylin. That was thorough." He froze. Realization dawned. "You recorded me." Before he could turn to run, the office door opened. Thud emerged first, followed by Delgado and two uniformed officers. Kaylin spun toward the door, too late. The officers moved like shadows. One twisted his arm behind his back. Cuffs clicked shut. "Kaylin Hayes," Delgado intoned. "You are under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, identity theft, forgery of official documents, and abandonment resulting in endangerment of life. You have the right to remain silent." Kaylin thrashed once, then sagged. "Zola, please, tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them I never meant—" Zola rose slowly from the sofa. Outside the large living room window, blue lights flashed silently. Serafina was being pulled from the waiting cab by two female officers. Her screams carried faintly through the glass. "You set me up," she shrieked at Kaylin. "You said she'd never make it back. This was your plan." Another nail. Another recording. Kaylin's eyes darted between Zola and the scene outside. His face crumpled. Thud stepped forward, holding a thick file. "This is the divorce petition filed this morning. This is the civil suit for damages. Every dollar you spent on the Amalfi Coast will be clawed back. And this," he tapped the final page, "is the assignment of debt. While you were spending my client's money, your own failing business accumulated over $4.8 million in liabilities. Those debts are now held by Miss Imani. When you leave prison, 10 years, 15, 20, you will still belong to her financially. For life." Kaylin made a sound no human throat should make, a low animal keen of despair. The officers dragged him outside. His screams faded into the night. Silence returned. Zola stood alone in the center of the living room. The tea had gone cold. 6 months later, the trial concluded in a federal courtroom downtown. The recordings played in open session. Kaylin received 22 years. Serafina, who turned state's witness, received 7. The press called it the Amalfi abandonment case. Thud kept Zola's name out of most headlines. She sold the Kalorama house 6 weeks after the verdict. Too many echoes. She bought a penthouse in Logan Circle, clean lines, floor-to-ceiling glass, city views that reminded her she was part of something larger than one betrayal. She founded the Imani Legal Defense Initiative, a nonprofit providing pro bono counsel to women facing financial abuse and fraud, with special focus on international cases. She hired staff. She learned balance sheets. She sat in boardrooms not as a figurehead, but as a decision-maker. 1 year to the day after landing back at Dulles, Zola stood once more in the International Departures Hall. This time she pushed her own cart. This time she had chosen the destination herself, Istanbul. No husband, no surprise tickets, just a business-class seat, a new passport, and a quiet certainty that the world no longer frightened her. At the gate she paused, looked back at the crowds, then forward at the jetway. She smiled, not the smile of a woman waiting to be loved, but the smile of a woman who had learned to love, herself enough to walk away from ruin and into whatever came next. She boarded alone, and for the first time in years, the journey felt like freedom.